Alright, you guys, I'm going to try to do this all in one shot here. It's about 6 a.m., just before starting the show this morning. And this is the winemaking project. And it's cool because you learn a lot about the world through wine. And wine's mentioned in the Bible, of course. A little wine is good for the soul. And things like this mentioned throughout the Bible. Of course, Noah was also a winemaker. He had a vineyard. So there's something to this whole process of essentially yeast converting sugar into alcohol. And so I thought this would be something fun to maybe share with you guys. I know everything you see here in this video, I was able to get on Amazon for under $100 total. So if you're feeling overwhelmed or this is something you think might be too expensive to try, it's absolutely affordable. So I want to just kind of take you through the process. Now, of course, this isn't the go-to video to make wine. This is my experiment trying to figure this out, trying to do it. I went online and looked at various videos. So I'm just going to give you my best guess of how this is all working. Now, you're probably hearing and seeing in the background here, this is actually called an airlock on the top of this bucket, and I'll explain to you what's happening here. But essentially, this airlock, and you'll see it bubble in a second here, prevents bacteria from getting into the bucket. And inside is yeast, sugar, and blackberries. That's it. Yeast, sugar, and blackberries. And as you'll see, there you just saw it bubble up. That's CO2 being released from the process of the yeast converting the sugar into alcohol. And that's what's happening here. Now, the reason why you have to have it covered and have this airlock and everything is because obviously, like, gnats were actually flying around. I got a few gnats in my wine before I realized that I had to tighten this bucket down tight and put the airlock on it. Essentially, the exact reason to have the airlock is for situations like that where gnats try to get in and other contaminants and bacteria. So hopefully I got to it before it got too bad, because gnats can spoil your wine. So let's hop to it. Let me show you what I ordered. This is the yeast. We'll start with what I ordered. There it is there. And this is super cheap, a few dollars on Amazon. It's called Bordeaux yeast. And unfortunately, they give you a lot of it. I'll never use all this, but essentially there's that. Then you have what's called a hydrometer. This actually measures the potential alcohol, is what I had to learn. I had to study this up pretty extensively because it's kind of hard to understand because this is all chemistry here. So this hydrometer measures the density of the liquid and how much sugar it has in it. And by telling how much sugar it has in it, it can tell you that once all that sugar is converted, you can estimate how much alcohol will be in it. So I tested mine at the beginning of this batch, and it has a potential for 14% alcohol by volume if all the sugar is converted to alcohol. So that process takes about 2 weeks, and you'll know when the process is done because it will stop bubbling. Because that means the yeast is done. Once it's done releasing CO2, that means it's done. So there will be no more bubbling. So I'm in the second day. This is actually the third day. So this is going pretty good. So that's a basic description of the hydrometer. Now, all these are glass tools, so you got to be careful. And basically the way the hydrometer works is you take this beaker and you put the hydrometer in this way after you filled this with fluid, and then it will self-level. And once it self-levels, you can make the reading. And that's just a simplified way to understand that. So all glass stuff, you got to be careful. Now, once the 2-week process is done, all of the wine will go into this 1 gallon bottle here. And you will continue to leave it in this bottle with the airlock on the top for 3 months is what you really want. Now, you could also put the wine into a wine casket, and then you'll get oak flavors. I'm not going to do that. I'm just going to have it in this bottle. But you definitely want the airlock on there to let it breathe, so, as they say. Now, how do you get it from here into there? Well, that's where this gadget comes in. This is, I guess, a gravity powered, what do they call this? Gravity powered siphon kind of thing. Again, this is all on Amazon. I think this is plastic, maybe it's glass. I think it's plastic. Anyway, you use this and use this tube back here, and after you've poured this mixture into this bag and bucket and gotten all the solids out, then you transfer it from here into the bottle with the pump. So those are all the moving parts of the process. It's so cool to see this is bubbling. It's so neat because you know that it's working. That is so cool. You can make it do it more by just... Now this little airlock has water in it, and that's the barrier. There's the airlock, so you put water in it. Now let's get to the ingredients and how I started this whole process. So for the purposes of simplicity, and every recipe is going to be different, I have this measured bowl, right? So it was about, let's see if this will pick this up. You can see the graduations inside the bowl here. Hopefully. Yeah, there you go. So what you're really going for is 1.5 gallons of total liquid in the final bucket. So the best way I've found to get to that level is essentially doing about 2 liters of the berries, 2 liters of water, and 1.85 kilograms of sugar, which is almost a full bag of one of the sizes of sugar. And that's the total recipe, and that'll give you about 1.5 gallons of total liquid, because that'll be strained out later and reduced down to a gallon, which will fit perfectly in that gallon jar. And that was my recipe. And then like 1 gram of yeast, which is, each of these little packets is 5 grams, so 1/5 of a packet. Now I overdid it a little bit because I didn't want my yeast to like not work and have to do this, because I only had these berries, and I put a lot of berries in there, so I was like, oh, I don't want to mess this up. So I added a little bit more yeast than I probably needed to, because yeast is cheap. So that is the recipe. So I used raw sugar and white sugar. So now, of course, you can add different things. You can go all organic if you want. I mean, there's different ways to do this. There are no hard, fast rules. But essentially what you're trying to do is get about 1.5 gallons of total solution. Okay. So this is a 2-gallon bucket. And as you can see the shadow on there. That's a little over 1.5 gallons in the bucket. And once you reduce all the solids out of it and filter the solids in the filter bag and the other bucket, then you'll get 1 gallon of liquid for the 1-gallon bottle. So that's the whole process pretty much. Now, there are some details to the process you need to know about. First step, put the berries in this bucket, pour the hot water over the berries. Here's a little hack and tip. Actually let the berries sit for about 5 minutes to let the water really get into the berries, the hot water, the boiling water. And then I smashed the berries. I smashed them with like a spatula or a smasher to get all the liquids out, because the berries have sugar too. You want to take advantage of all that natural sugar in the taste and flavors of the berries. And then once they're smashed, you add the sugar while it's still hot, and you stir it super well, and then you've got to cool down the whole mixture so that it's below 70 degrees, because if it's not, it will kill the yeast. So I had to put mine in the refrigerator because it wouldn't cool down. It was a hot day in here, so I put it in the refrigerator and let it cool all the way down. And then I took it out of the refrigerator. And then when you put the yeast on, you just sprinkle it on top and you leave it on top for 15 minutes. I don't know why they say to do that, but it actually works. And when you come back, the yeast will have already started growing and changing color. And then you stir the whole thing together. And then that's when you put the top on. Now, that's when you put the top and the airlock on. Now, what the mistake I made was they said, put the top on loosely. And they did not use an airlock. Well, gnats got in under these little cracks. And I had a couple gnats in there, which was a bummer. But it's no big deal. It's not going to ruin everything. And then later I was like, oh, put the top on super tight and then put the airlock on, and that's what you should do from the beginning. Now, some people say don't do that because you're supposed to let air in because it kickstarts the yeast. I don't know, but I have gnats and they never go away this time of the year, so I don't want to run that risk. So obviously, the yeast is very happy because it's working. It's off-gassing CO2. So the technique worked. So I guess we're good there. And that's about it, you guys. It's a pretty simple process. I know a lot of you have tons and tons and tons of blackberries, so why not try this? Again, all of this that I just described to you, the bottles, the buckets, was all for less than $100. I think it was like 96 bucks. And so it's gonna be 3 months before I can taste it. I'll do like a tasting party or something, like a video at some point for you guys. But that's pretty much it. I wanted to give you guys an update on the winemaking process. Oh, here are some of my tomatoes. These are little, I don't know what they call these. Tomato Marscano. These are Marscano tomatoes. Look at those beautiful tomatoes. There's tons of tomatoes popping off this year. That one's a little bit bruised. I'll eat that first. But is this aroma? That's aroma. So I got tons of tomatoes popping off, and I hope you guys enjoyed the video, and we'll see you soon.